We don't talk about money, religion, and politics, right? Well, all of that is out the window, especially right now. So when we're talking about nursing, shifting change, and I know though it's not necessarily a political movement, things need to happen at the legislative level, right? A lot of these executive orders or a lot of these policy changes, I should say, are affecting healthcare, which ultimately affects us. It affects our jobs. It affects our community. So a lot of that, we don't talk about politics. We don't talk about money. We don't talk about religion. Like all of that is out the window. And I think we need to start having these conversations more. And this episode may make some people uncomfortable, and I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with that because I know I'm not coming from a malicious place. I'm coming from a place of truth. And I'm going to share with you my truth.
Welcome to Nurses with Voices. I'm Dr. Lendra, your host and fellow nurse who's traded in burnout for breakthroughs. I'm here to show you how to transform your nursing career into one filled with purpose, reduced stress, and incredible opportunities. Whether you're looking to start your own business, build generational wealth, or simply find a healthier role in nursing, this podcast is for you. Join me to explore practical strategies to overcome burnout, combat bias, and chart new paths in nursing. It's time to reclaim your voice and reimagine your future in healthcare. Let's get started.
Welcome back to another episode of Nurses with Voices. I'm Dr. Lendra. I am excited to share that my Nurse Legacy Accelerator Program is officially starting on June 15th. And this program is a 6-month program, and it's for nurses who are serious about launching and scaling their IV hydration and or consulting business. And I'm excited about this. So this program comes out of our HW Foundation. So for those of you who may not be aware, the HW Foundation is officially a 501c3. The HW Foundation is our health wealth foundation, where our mission is to really support those nurses who are looking to build a legacy through entrepreneurship. So I'm excited about this. There is an application that needs to be completed. I'll make sure that the application is in the show notes. Yes, there's an application because we want to make sure that you're a good fit. And we want to make sure that we're a good fit for you. We do have 12-week options available for the program. It's 12 weeks, 6 months, and done for you options. So really exciting times. The program starts on June 15th, and I can only take 5 people into the program. I'm excited about what the program has to offer. I have experts who are going to be coming in about mindset, financial growth, business planning. It's going to be absolutely amazing. So yes, I'm excited about it. Again, I'll put the application in the show notes. I can say so much about this program. It's going to be absolutely amazing. I really put a lot of heart and just thought into the program, things that I wish that I had when I was launching and starting my business. And not that I didn't have great mentorship when it came to launching my IV hydration business. It's always things that you wish have been done differently. And that's what I'm bringing, and that's what I'm adding. And again, it's not just about IV hydration businesses. It's about also how are you monetizing your expertise that you already have from a leadership perspective. And from a leadership perspective and just from a skill-based perspective. So I am looking forward to those of you who are going to be a part of it. So June 15th is the start date. So we are still accepting applications and reviewing, and we will be making decisions shortly. So these are people who are ready. You are like ready to really commit and invest in yourself. And that means time, that means the energy. And we're going to make this process as smooth as possible. But with anything, to get results, you have to be able to put something in it, right? So I will leave that there. And like I said, all of the information will be in the show notes. In other news, I want to talk about RFK Jr. for a second. Let me make sure I put my glasses on for this one. It's been making headlines that RFK Jr. apparently says CDC will no longer recommend COVID-19 vaccines for healthy children and pregnant women. And this is from the American Hospital Association. I'm just going to read what the American Hospital Association says. RFK Jr. says CDC will no longer recommend COVID-19 vaccine for healthy children and pregnant women. He released a statement on Twitter. Today, the COVID vaccine for healthy children and healthy pregnant women has been removed from cdc.gov recommended immunization schedule. Bottom line is common sense and it's good science. We are now one step closer to realizing at POTUS promise to make America healthy again. It got like 7.2 million views. So if you are on X, I think I called it Twitter, sorry, formerly known as Twitter. If you are on X and interested in reading more about this, you can follow along in the comments. I'm not on X. I just got this article from the American Hospital Association. So we are one step closer to making America healthy again. Love to hear what you have to say in the comments. And I'm going to leave that there. Actually, I'm not. You know why? Because let's talk about the implications for healthy women and children. Number one, let's look at increased health risks, right? Pregnant women are at higher risk for severe illnesses from COVID-19, which can lead to complications such as preterm birth or stillbirth. Vaccinations have shown to provide crucial protection for both mothers and their babies. So removing the recommendation may leave a vulnerable group without essential safeguards. Let's look at insurance coverage and access. CDC recommendations often guide insurance coverage decisions. So without an official recommendation, insurers may not choose to cover the cost of COVID-19 vaccines, potentially leading to increased out-of-pocket expenses and reduced vaccine accessibility. And then let's talk about public confusion and trust for a second. These abrupt policy changes, which bypass the traditional review process by the advisory committee on immunization practices, has led to confusion among healthcare providers and the public. So this could erode trust in public health institutions and hinder effective communication about vaccine safety and efficacy. The bottom line for me is that the removal of the COVID-19 vaccine recommendations for healthy children and pregnant women represents a significant from established public health practices, and it raises concern about increased health risks. So how are we making America healthy again? This administration has done such a great job at division within the country. We have other countries who are just livid with us. I think it was Canada. When I say we, guys, you know, I don't mean me, but so this big, beautiful bill, Canada just passed their own big, beautiful bill that is taking all of the United States alcohol off the shelves. Take that how you want to take it. The divisiveness of what this administration has done, and it kind of leads me to what I wanted to talk about today. I want to talk about our practice as nurses. Now, coming off of the Nurse Shift Change rally, where we're looking to unify nursing, unify healthcare, we have to really start with our foundation. Our foundation is nurses. I went back and forth on whether or not I wanted to discuss this today, but I'm going to go ahead and discuss it. And when we talk about what's happening to this country, the divisiveness, the discrimination, the removal of DEI, it's still happening. And how do you stop it when you have clear discrimination and bias being portrayed within an administration? Some of you may have heard about a lawsuit, and I'll tell you how I heard about it. It was one of the influencers, one of the social media influencers had posted something on social media about a lawsuit in California by a nurse at one of the California hospitals. And apparently she is alleging an accusation of discrimination after being terminated. And why do I want to talk about this? Because if we're going to come together, when we talk about Nurse Shift Change, if we're going to come together, we need to be able to come together as one. And what's the saying? Like, those who live in a glass house shouldn't throw stones. And we have to fix our own foundation. And it makes me think about that age-old saying of nurses eating their young. And why this topic is one that I'm passionate about and why I want to talk about it is because it deals with bias. Now, you guys know I wrote a book called Confessions of a Nurse Executive, and the subtitle is The Conscious and Unconscious Bias in Healthcare. And I'll put it in the show notes because it is available. Now, when I saw it, I kind of looked at it and I was just like, and then there was another post where someone was trying to, I guess, justify or talk about, I guess, what really actually happened on social media. And I, I just feel like when you do those type of things, you still look like the perpetrator. And I know this is a very sensitive topic because in nursing, what do? We don't do? We don't talk about money, religion, and politics, right? Well, all of that is out the window, especially right now. So when we're talking about nursing shifting change, and I know though it's not necessarily a political movement, things need to happen at the legislative level, right? A lot of these executive orders or a lot of these policy changes, I should say, are affecting healthcare, which ultimately affects us. It affects our jobs. It affects our community. So a lot of that, oh, we don't talk about politics. We don't talk about money. We don't talk about religion. Like all of that is out the window. And I think we need to start having these conversations more. And this episode may make some people uncomfortable, and I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with that because I know I'm not coming from a malicious place. I'm coming from a place of truth. And I'm going to share with you my truth. And what I mean by that is when I wrote this book, a lot of people, I think the first thing they think that I'm referring as a minority woman of color. I'm not sure if people realize that I'm not necessarily talking about Caucasians. I know this is a topic that may make some people uncomfortable, but I'm going to read this to you and we'll go from there. And you'll know why I'm sharing this and why I want to talk about this today. This is an article that I'm reading from May 12th. And a former Cedars-Sinai Medical Center nurse is suing the hospital, alleging her dream of a long career in the medical field was shattered by disparate treatment from Filipino supervisors and coworkers, and that a false excuse was used to justify firing her for complaining about her treatment. The Los Angeles Superior Court lawsuit alleges gender discrimination, retaliation, breach of contract, and the covenants of good faith and fair dealing, failure to prevent harassment, discrimination, and or retaliation, failure to take corrective action, and intentional inflictions of emotional distress. The nurse is half white and half Japanese, and she seeks unspecified compensatory and punitive damages in the suit brought Wednesday. Now, I'm going to share something that I think a lot of people don't know about me. And when I wrote my book, Confessions of a Nurse Executive, the subtitle was Conscious and Unconscious Bias in Healthcare. And I think when people read my book or when people heard about my book, they automatically thought that I was making this like a black versus white thing. And it wasn't. And my confession is that the culture and community that actually were biased, or I experienced the most bias from, I'll say, is the Filipino culture. Anyone who I have a relationship with, if you're Filipino, you know where we stand, right? I am speaking to the nurses who you know who you are, right? I am speaking to the nurses who never gave me a chance, who were completely biased. And I'll give you an example. And I talk about this in my book a little bit, well, a lot of it. But I never named what culture I was referring to. I didn't do any of that. Because to me, the biggest thing is doing something about it. Because what happens is hospitals don't want this. Hospitals don't want lawsuits. So they rather cover it up and, find the fault and problem within you as opposed to dealing with it. And I think the funny thing is, I think the joke on the social media post that I was looking at, it said something about like the Filipino Mafia, right? Which is it's one of those like unsaid things that people don't really say. They say it, but they don't say it, right? So it's one of those things. So I think that was where I found like the humor or why the post even caught my attention. We're just talking truth here, right? Like, and again, this is my truth. In hospital settings where I've worked, and I have worked in hospital settings where there were, very large Filipino communities. And if you were in, you're in. And if you weren't, it was known, right? So I can remember when I took one of my first leadership positions. Now, when we were working side by side, I was your girl, right? Like we were fine. I can remember taking that first leadership position, and it was amazing the way the backstabbing started, right? So this was kind of like my first experience as a nurse leader, and in noticing, the backstabbing. And let's be clear. Let me just back up a little bit. When I talk about the bias that I experienced, it wasn't just Filipino. It was actually from my own culture as well. So it wasn't necessarily, I think a lot of people thought my book was about it being like a black and white thing. That wasn't necessarily it at all. The bias that I experienced came from either my own culture and the Filipino culture, but that's my truth. Now, did I see other things that took place? Yes, I did see other things that took place, and I did share this in my book as well. Like the liaison who was from like the South, and she was I don't know where she was from. She's from like one of those states, one of the southern states. And she said, if you guys don't do something about the 7-figure fine, you're going to be on a plantation picking cotton. Like, who are you? Who said that in like the day and age that we live in? Like, who says that? So yes, did I also experience those type of things? Yes, I did. Did I also see other colleagues being treated a certain way? Yes, I did. But when it comes to the majority of my experiences, they were actually from, like I said, the Filipino culture and my own culture. When I see this, I can speak to it because I know of my situation. And I'll tell you another experience that I had. I had an experience where I took a particular leadership position, and the person who I replaced was Filipino. And it was almost like I never had a chance, right? Because the loyalty was to this particular leader. I was taking over, and a large part of my unit, a large part of my staff were Filipino. They worked with this particular Filipino nurse who I now report to, right? So it was almost like I never stood a chance. But interestingly enough, my unit still did amazing. And when we talk about bias and burnout, again, this is my truth. I was placed in a position where I had to succeed. I had to do well. Like, I couldn't fail, right? Because they were waiting for me to fail. So I couldn't fail. But then it ultimately impacted my leadership style as well, right? Because there was already a division between me and the staff, right? And it impacted my leadership style. So that's one of the sad parts about it. It impacted my leadership style because there was such a lack of trust between myself and my own staff. As I started to bring in my own staff, there was more trust building there. But were there things that I could have done differently as a leader? Absolutely. And which is why I can teach these things, which is why I can speak to it now, because at the time I was always in fight or flight mode, right? We had to be number one in everything because that's how I was made to feel, because I wasn't going to allow you to make me fail in my position. And this is where mentorship comes into play. And this is why I'm so passionate about mentoring other nurses, especially those who are trying to go into leadership roles or even entrepreneurship, even when we talk about burnout, right? When you're experiencing burnout for whatever your reason is, whatever you're experiencing, and now you want to go into a different role or you want to go do something altogether. And this is where I come in with mentorship, because I know what it's like not to have mentorship in nursing. And had I had mentorship in nursing, I truly, truly believe that I would have handled my roles differently, because I'm from the world where you're not going to break me, right? And I was so determined that you're not going to break me. I allowed that to interfere with my relationship building with my staff. And I'm just being completely honest here. Though we were always number one, we had no falls, we had no pressure injuries, all the quality, our metrics were amazing. When we look at things that I could have done differently, there were things that I could have done differently, but I was always on the defense because I was going to prove you wrong. And who wants to stay in that position? So when I got the opportunity to go make $40,000 more a year, it's like, I'm not going to stick around here and continue to try to prove myself, right? I took it, right? But at the same time, there were opportunities that I probably missed. And I probably missed those opportunities because I definitely should have went to HR sooner. But kind of like this lawsuit, I think people get caught up in feeling like if I go to HR, people are going to know I'm going to look like a complainer, or is there going to be retaliation? And it saddens me that, and I've worked in leadership. So I know and understand the nuances of what it can look like on the other side because I've worked there. So again, this is why I mentor and this is why I can mentor. And I don't always talk about this. And I don't talk about it because, well, one, because I've come so far. However, seeing it on social media and being in the news and seeing how she filed the lawsuit, she truly feels that she's alone. She truly feels like no one's on her side, and this is her only resort, right? In order to be heard and to be compensated. The way I handled it was I continued to elevate. And the way I handled it on the inside, I wasn't that person who was constantly going to human resources. Like, I saw what you were doing. And I think part of that is the way I grew up. You wear broad shoulders, right? You wear broad shoulders. It's like, I see what you're doing. I don't need to run to human resources every time because I see what you're doing, right? You wear broad shoulders. I grew up in a house with 4 boys. So you learn to have very, very thick skin. And I have had and have still to this day, very thick skin. And I saw what was happening. So I didn't feel the need to run to human resources. Did I document? Absolutely. I kept documentation of what was happening, which is why I was able to counteract everything that particular director tried to do and ultimately get her removed from being the person who I reported to. And I'm sharing this today because if you're someone out there and you're going through bias, if you're going through discrimination, bullying at work, you need to reach out to someone. You can reach out. I'll put my link in the show notes. You can reach out to me. You need to reach out to a mentor who can support you through what you're going through and help you take the steps that you need to take, because you don't want to end up like this nurse who ultimately ended up getting fired. Do I know all of the nuances of what actually happened and why she was ultimately terminated? No. And this kind of goes beyond the nurse eat your young phenomenon. This, a lot of times, is just the bias and discrimination. And it's unfortunate. What you can do if you are experiencing this, one is document everything. You want to document what's going on. Clear documentation just really helps to validate like what's taking place. The second thing you want to do is, you want to seek support on speaking up and how you speak up. You have to be strategic about how you speak up. I think that someone has an app. There's someone, and I have to now think about it. And it just came to me as I'm talking. She has an app. If you feel that you are being discriminated against, where you can contact like an attorney or something in real time. I'm going to see if I can find it. If I can find it, there's an app. I feel bad now because I'm like, wait a minute, I mentioned this and now I can't. But the point is seeking support and speaking up strategically. And how do you do that? It's speaking up right away. Speak up in real time. It can help you set boundaries, right? So you want to be able to set those boundaries just in case patterns start to occur. And the third thing is prioritizing your well-being, because remember, burnout can truly, truly occur. And for me, and again, I'm using myself as an example because I was so busy trying to make sure that, I'm, because I saw the sabotage. I saw what you were trying to do. I saw everything because I saw it and because I experienced it. I was so hell-bent on making sure that my units did better and was good. And that's not it, right? And you can just lead yourself to such burnout. And so this is why you want to make sure that you're taking good care of yourself. So make sure that you're doing something that's going to help prioritize your well-being and know your rights. Know your rights in your state. Because as I mentioned, I also experienced it with my own people as well. And sometimes our own culture can be our own worst enemy. And I know people, I'm going to catch flack for saying this, and I'm okay with that. You know why? Because when because people are very sensitive, and when you start to have certain conversations, it makes people very uncomfortable, and they automatically want to go on the defense instead of just, actually listening. And it's okay. Listen. Now, do I own, and I've said it, could I have done differently is during my time in those leadership roles? Absolutely. And because I know better now, I do better. I also admit that I was also on the defense. So going from one role to another, I can remember that there were rumors that I got fired when I left. Like, talk about like name shaming, fired. Are you kidding me? But, again, I got broad shoulders. So do I care? No, I don't. It's funny to me. I could laugh about it now. I'm laughing, but it is sad. It's sad that these things truly do happen. And the reason why I'm talking about it is because it's made news. We talk about coming together as nurses being a foundation. I guess it makes people think about the phenomenon of nurses eating their young. But this truly goes beyond nursing eating their young when we talk about bias and discrimination. And in my LinkedIn newsletter today, I actually talked about what nursing eating their young is and what it is not. And I'll share with you what it is and what it's not. It's about a culture of bullying, exclusion, sabotage, failure to mentor, support, uplift your colleagues, and it's truly a breakdown of professional integrity and compassion. What it does not mean is that all nurses are perpetrators of bullying. And it does not mean that specific ethnic groups are inherently biased or exclusionary, or that addressing these issues is an attack on a particular community. I'm sharing my truth of my experiences. And I think sometimes we don't want to own what actually has happened. I think the broader point here is, and again, I mentioned this in my newsletter, at a time where healthcare is so under attack right now, nurses as the foundation, because again, no nurses mean no healthcare, right? And as a foundation, we have to commit to creating environments that are inclusive and make sure that every nurse feels empowered, supported, and truly able to provide high quality care, regardless of background, regardless of community, regardless of culture. There's enough going on in this country right now and again, the reason why I'm talking about this today is because it hits home for me. For those who may be wondering, like, why are you talking about this case? Because it hits home for me, because I'm someone who has experienced it and have been able to overcome it, and has been able to overcome it substantially, so much so that, now I'm able to speak about it. And listen, if there's anyone out there who you need help, I'm definitely willing to help you get there as well. And this is why I have courses about it, right? This is why I have mentorship about it, because it's real. And, when you see it, it's unfortunate. If there's anyone who needs support or needs strategy behind it, again, I will put my link in the show notes so that we can definitely connect. I definitely want to support you and help guide you through whatever you might be going through, because I have dealt with it, and it's a real thing. I wrote a whole book about it. So, and my next book is going to be about how to overcome it. Until next time, make sure that you stay educated, stay inspired, and stay empowered.